Good evening and welcome to our Wednesday, February 22nd business meeting. We'll start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you'd all stand and face the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our mission statement says that Richmond Schools, in partnership with the community, will help all children believe in themselves, respect others, and experience the joy of learning. Through effective teaching, children will first learn the basic skills, including thinking skills, using words, numbers, and ideas. In addition, children will be given the opportunity to learn more of what they want and need to know. Adults will model behavior that will teach children to resolve conflict successfully, take risks with new ideas, and understand that they can err without being judged.
Amen. Or something like that.
Now we're on to public commentary. The Board of School Trustees recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on corporation matters. The board has set aside two 30-minute periods for public comment during each board meeting. The maximum time for individual speakers is 5 minutes per person. The board expects personal decorum and factual information from the speaker. The president reserves the right to interrupt the speaker when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or if it interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Comments recognizing the work of staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are to be made through the complaint process available in Policy 9130. If the public comment reflects inaccurate or incomplete information, the superintendent may clarify the facts after the public comment session. Public comments requiring no research, investigation, or review may receive response from the board and/or administration as appropriate. Tomorrow morning, board members will be on Radio Troy at 8 o'clock to answer questions that you might have about tonight's meeting. And in the morning, it will be Suzanne Darengowski and Aaron Stevens. Do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We do. Bethany Norwalt.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Bethany.
First, I just have a question. It might be really fast, but what is exactly considered the walking distance? Is it K to 4, 1 mile? Or second through and up 1 mile? Is that how it works?
I believe it's K through 6, 1 mile. That's what the policy is. We don't enforce that.
You don't?
We
Well,
have
then
not
my
yet.
whole thing just went out the window. So what's the point of having it? I mean, not to be rude, but...
Good question, and we'll be revising that policy.
Okay, so do we know what the new policy will be look like?
I don't have a recommendation yet,
Okay.
but it will be more reflective of practice. We recognize that there are unsafe conditions from time to time that we have to consider. It also has to be age appropriate. We wouldn't want a preschool student doing some of the same walking that we would recommend for a middle school or intermediate high school student. So it will look a little different from the current policy.
Well, that's pretty much it then, because that just doesn't work out. My whole argument just went out the window. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Elisa?
No.
Okay, thanks. On to snapshots of success.
The first snapshot of success happens to be recognition of our spelling bee winners. And I would like to call to the podium Rebecca Bailey and Alex Mitchell.
I don't think Alex is here.
Oh, she's not here? Okay. Rebecca Bailey. I think I recognize her from the newspaper
Yes,
this
and
morning.
from last year as well, correct?
That was a nice article. Congratulations to you. First place spelling.
Thank you.
What was the word?
Ecosystem.
Very nice.
Did you know right away, or did you have to stop and think about it?
I knew how to spell it right away, but I couldn't
that's
quite
good.
remember
Yeah.
what the word was.
Well, congratulations.
So how are you preparing for the, where do
Kelly?
you go next?
Mrs. Baumgartner, can you pose with
Get
her
a
so that we
photo.
can post this
Look
on
to
our...
Bridget.
There we go.
Hold that up, okay.
What is the next level of competition?
The regional spelling bee in Dayton.
And how do you prepare for that?
Well, since they're the same words, I'm not really studying it as hard as I did for the citywide, but I still look over them.
When do you go?
It's this coming Saturday.
How many contestants will be there for that one?
I think 21. That's how many there were last year.
Wow.
Good luck to you.
Very nice.
Does anyone else have any
Congratulations.
comments?
Good luck.
Yes.
Good
Thank
luck,
you.
and we're proud that you're representing RCS.
That's
She has
quite a...
nice earrings now, too.
And
Who do you have with you tonight?
Those 3 people.
And who are they?
Are those three? Could you,
My
you have a
mom.
fan club, in other words. Could you introduce them?
My mom, my sister, and my grandma.
Very nice.
That's
And they look
nice.
very proud, and will they be there on Saturday? Mm-hmm. Cheering you on? Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that cool or is that cool? I've discovered that spell check has taken care of any I ever had.
Careful about that, though.
Our second snapshot of success is recognition of the Wayne County Educator of the Year. And Mrs. Wolpe, principal of the high school, would you like to come up to the podium and just tell us a little bit about this Educator of the Year, who happens to be an employee at our high school?
Thank you very much. I am very pleased and honored to present to you the Chamber of Commerce Educator of the Year, Rusty Hensley. Rusty is assistant principal at Richmond High School. He is the director of our Career Education Center. He has been instrumental in gaining or in having all of us have the opportunity for our students to participate in not only a lot of different careers, but to attain dual credits while they are doing it at Ivy Tech. We have students that graduate with lots of dual credits on their way to an associate degree through the Career Ed program. Rusty has also been in charge of our early college program this year and has done a fantastic job with that. So with that, I'd like to present Rusty and thank him for all he does, not only for those of us on the administrative team, but also all the students at Richmond High School, too. We're very, very proud of Rusty and all of his efforts in his area and what he does. Thanks.
I'd like to present him with something that's already been presented. And I should have Brian Zimmerman help me with this, because actually this is made possible by the Palladium item. It's presented by the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce in recognition of our Educator of the Year, but it's made possible by the Palladium item every year. So I wanted to give recognition to them. I will display this up at the podium with Mr. Hensley.
Wow,
It's really neat.
that's nice.
The coolest award ever. Love doing that one.
Oh, that is nice.
That's neat.
A beautiful painting. They do something like this every year for our Educator of the Year.
Yeah.
It's even better being a board member of the chamber when it's Richmond High School.
Where will that hang?
I have it hanging in my office.
Oh, you have it hanging in your office?
Wife didn't think that was something we should hang at home. She said, "That's probably for your office, isn't it?" I could read what that meant.
So you understand that.
Oh, Bridget's out there.
Oh, Bridget's in it.
It's a nice way of saying it really doesn't go with the decoration.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
On to reports and discussion topics.
First discussion topic will be our monthly financial report. Mr. Coddington.
Good evening and welcome to 2012. We've got a lot on our plate right now. We will have an abbreviated financial report because, as you can see in this material that we sent you on Friday, we didn't have a budget. We've got some estimates, but we don't have a budget. And at 5:26 last night, we got an approved budget, but I haven't had a chance to update it. But at the next meeting or the next financial report that I give, I will talk about the budget, the 1782, and where we are. And, we knew we're right where we are, and it's a good budget. No surprises. But let's look at January, where we're going to start the year. First, as we look at this, we see our revenue is very flat, but we're down $52,000 for the month. The $52,000 as we started our first basic grant from our being down 78 students and $200,000 in special ed reductions. So we will see that throughout the year, and probably the same line throughout the year, down, down, down. We know that. That's not a surprise. We've anticipated it, and we're planning for it. Our expenditures are down for the month, $688,000 from 2011. Now, if you remember in December, our expenses were up because we paid our benefits of turf and perf payments. We paid them, it was a timing issue. We paid them in December of 2011. We paid them in January of 2012. Our gas bill. We're continuing to see decreases in gas right now. We've had one of the warmest winters that we've had in ages, and we're continuing to buy gas at a lower price. So we hope to be able to see that throughout the year. That's our revenue and expenses. Our year-to-date's the same because it's the first month. Let's look at where we're going to end the year then, and we'll look at our 2012 cash flow. If we look at our 2012 cash flow, one of the numbers, if I can bring this up without doing, you see that we're projecting revenue of $36,759,000. Last year we had revenue of $37,599,000. We're going to have $800,000 less revenue this year. Not a surprise. We've known that since September. With that, you see that we've got expenditures last year of $37,363,000. And this year we're projecting to date, because the cuts haven't been made, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but right now, if everything stayed the same, we would have a minus $234,000, $235,000. Now, I keep this right now to keep in front of it would be real easy to make this a 0, a +1, and a +2, but we want to keep in mind, until those changes are made, it's a plan. When they're made,
Then
we'll garner the savings. So as we look at our cash flow, and I'm not today going to go into debt service, pension, bond, school bus replacement. I'll do that next month to compare it to the budget and where we are. It doesn't do us any good to say what's going to be expended until we know what our revenue is and what it looks like. But very briefly, this is the form that we're going to be spending our time on this year. This is where we are. You see, again, you go to 2012, you see our revenue, $36,750. That's right off our cash flow. That's right where we are. We see our expenditures here. That's where you get your minus $235,000. You watch our expenditures we're seeing right now. We made adjustments in November or August of 2011. Our teachers, non-teacher salaries are down. Our teacher salaries are down. Benefits correspondingly. Health insurance there. But the plan that we have, and I'll be glad to talk offline to any board member, of $218,000 right here. That's from the master plan operational savings. You can see that on, I believe it's page 14 on there, how we're going to get those $218,000. Now, it's $218 because we understand that any savings we put in place this year will not be fully realized until next year, because most of these changes will be made in August. So of that 655 is what you'll see in the plan. We saved $218,000 this year. Estimated retirement savings. We estimated that we would have 15 teachers retired, and we would replace those 15 teachers. That savings, though, usually coming from an older teacher to a newer teacher, would save us $144,000 this year, $415,000 for the year, next year. Estimated staff reductions. The staff reductions from principals to secretaries to teacher reductions, hopefully through retirements, will save us $167,000, and that comes again through building closures. And we're going to have some add backs, but safe students, healthy students, none. But our stabilization money, the 20 people that we have in our FTE count now, we want to save 845 of those. So if you look at this, this is a plan. Reason I have it in bold, we have not operationalized that plan. We're in the process of operationalizing it. With that, we'll have a balanced budget per the state legislature in 2012. That's our financial report for January 2012. I'll be glad to entertain any questions one might have.
Mr. Cottington, just clarification. On the estimated staff reductions that we have on that line, you mentioned principals were included in that.
No, I'm sorry.
That is not the case. Okay. If
somebody
was listening close, I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. That's up in the master plan operational savings.
Right.
Thank you very much. I know we've got a big agenda, and looking forward to 2012.
Thank you. Next is our district evaluation update.
The district evaluation update. Up to the podium. Just a reminder to the board and to the listening public.
Right.
We're doing our district evaluation just a little differently this year, and we're going to bring this to a conclusion probably in the summer, June sometime. It's going to be a busy June for us. But at some point in that month, we will have a community meeting where we talk about the district evaluation. And what you see tonight will be what we're working towards. We've talked about this at the beginning of the school year. We're talking about it again now. Today, we're talking about just an update of what we discussed earlier in the year. Basically, there were 4 annual board goals. 10% increase in math and language arts, I-STEP scores, that would be, in all grade levels, 6% increase in the I-Read 3 scores, which we have not had yet, 3% increase in the graduation rate, and a 25 student enrollment increase. We've listened to Dr. Parker come before the board and talk about our acuity scores. We believe there's reason for optimism on the increase in math and language arts I-STEP scores. If we are able to compare this year to last year, it appears as though there's some reason for optimism there. But again, those are acuity scores, and they are not I-STEP scores, so we can't measure this one yet. The 6% increase in I-Read 3 scores, of course, We haven't administered the iRead 3. That's a little less than a month from now. And we have reason to believe that there's optimism, there should be some optimism there as well, based on the performance of the students this year. But again, this is a brand-new test, and we aren't sure what we'll see in terms of results. 3% increase in the graduation rate. The graduation rate that we're talking about actually would be last year's graduation rate, not this year's. When we set the rate, when we set the goal in, what was that, September, the graduation rate already was, but we didn't know exactly what the state would certify that at. And our graduation rate did not go up 3%. In fact, it went down almost a point. It went from 82.5 to 81.7. So what you're going to hear in the next few weeks in an upcoming report would be how we're responding to that. And I think you'll see that it's an aggressive response that we're putting towards that piece. The 25 student enrollment increase we didn't see. In fact, we saw a 70-some student loss. Everything that we are doing in our master plan is designed to go right to that issue. Our master plan implementation isn't just to save money. It's to make this corporation more appealing, because we intend to see quality raised in every aspect. If you recall, I understand that the press has led with the building closures. We did not. What we led with, and what we hope this community will come to see, is that we've reorganized for success. We have created K4 configurations because we know that we can better approach and better reach some of the needs of those students if we have critical masses at in all those buildings. And so we've created these buildings so that they are staffed and they have the student body in them to make this critical mass per grade level possible. We can approach various different ability groupings within those grade levels in a more flexible manner. We also have created the 5-8 intermediate schools. Those intermediate schools are to give greater stability to that whole age range. At a point when students need stability the most, we're putting them in one year and out the other. If you go across the state of Indiana and you look at the ISTEP scores, we've talked about how the 7th and 8th grade scores are lower in schools where there are 7th and 8th grades. When you start adding 6th and 5th grades to those buildings, the 7 and 8 scores go up as well. So we're trying to create a school system that parents will find appealing and that we will see an enrollment increase over time as a result of what we're doing. We're also creating the only special purpose building that I know of in this area that services high ability students and life skills in the same area. So you're hearing all the time how we're working with this one. On resource management, if you recall, we broke our strategic goals into various areas. Resource management would be one. On curriculum, we have been working to align our curriculum with the Indiana standards, but shifting to the Common Core. This has been a tough job because teachers are working diligently to try to align their curriculum, which means their instruction as well as their testing, to those Indiana standards while shifting towards the Common Core. Mr. Millis could give you more information, and they're available here for questions should you have those. In the finance area, we talked about balancing our budget for 2012 and 2013, and you hear every month how we're planning to do that and how we're on target. In the human resources area, we are developing new operations manuals. While those are not ready to roll out yet, I think we've shared with you at different points that we're well underway and that those will be ready to roll out before too much longer. On the facilities, we talked about the importance of creating a master plan. You, of course, know about the status of the master plan. We're steeped in the activity implementing that. And wireless connectivity, in the report, we are almost there, almost there. For community engagement, we looked at value-added impact study of three of our major projects, and that would be mentoring, the Centerstone, and the communities and schools. Online, in our report, you'll see where we stand. Misty Hollis is here if you have questions on that as well. On the community partnerships inventory, that's exactly as is. We've inventoried all of our partnerships, and that information is available for the asking. On the marketing, we had a year two plan implementation. That year two plan implementation is just now rolling over, and we're putting together another year's plan. With the adoption of boundaries, when that is set in place and the policy goes, we're ready to start moving forward, putting together a whole communications plan around that. On school climate, we have data-guided instruction as one of our goals, and we have a goal that in using our Safe Schools, Healthy Students data, we have two primary purposes. One would be a safe and productive learning environment and a safe and productive teaching environment. And that is a report that's coming out on its own. In fact, you're putting that together as we speak, aren't you?
Due Friday.
It's due Friday. And the board will be presented with that evaluation or that whole report when it's filed with our Safe Schools, Healthy Students grant. As I said, we have cabinet members here. The report is online. It's been posted to the web. I should have probably recommended that it be accepted and filed. That might be something that you would want to call for. But if there are questions, we're here to answer them.
Questions? Thank you, Dr. Bork. Do you want us to have a motion to accept it and file it? Is that
It might be a nice, it might be a nice thing to have that filed.
To go down in
officially.
consent items. Can I hear a motion to? I'm sorry, Jeff.
I'm sorry, I thought you asked for a question.
I did ask for questions.
Well, I was just, are we to ask, or is the data to support this coming to us automatically, or are we to just send in an email later and ask for that, or how is your...
Some of the data hasn't been assembled yet. For example, the report that Misty Hollis is doing hasn't been assembled yet for distribution, but when it is, it will come your way.
So we can just assume as these sections are done, you'll just automatically forward it to us?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Do I have a motion to accept and file the district evaluation update? Pat Heine makes the motion.
Second.
Linda Morgeson seconds the motion. Now, are there any more comments or questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
The action items we have tonight are going to be Mr. Coddington's domain. I'll turn that over to him. We have donations, we have additional appropriations in the Capital Projects Fund and Rainy Day Fund, and I'll let him work you through those.
Thank you, Dr. Borf. Tonight, we ask the board to accept the following donations from Charles Elementary PTO to Charles Elementary, the purchase of 2 smart boards. From Richmond Toyota to Early Learning Center, the purchase of 2 bicycles. From Hills Pet Nutrition to Vale Elementary to be used for field trips. From Cindy McKibben to RHS Athletics to the RHS Boys Basketball Camp Fund. And from Studebaker Buick Pontiac GMC Trucks, Inc. to RHS Athletics, the RHS Cheerleader Camp Fund. We ask the board to accept these very generous donations of $7,290.
Do I have a motion to accept the donations as presented? Dixie Robinson makes the motion, and Suzanne Darengowski seconds the motion. Any questions on the donations? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On to additional appropriations.
Yes, as we discussed 2 board meetings ago, the following items is submitted for your consideration and for approval to advertise by the Richmond Community School Board of Trustees. Permission to advertise a notice to taxpayers for additional appropriations. It has been determined that it is now necessary to appropriate additional monies from the 2012 Capital Projects Fund budget. Keep it in mind that this additional appropriation will have no effect on the Wayne County tax rate. The administration is requesting the approval of the Richmond Community School Board of Trustees for permission to publish the required notice to taxpayers for the public hearing on the additional appropriations for 2012 Capital Projects Fund. This public hearing will occur on March 14th, 2012. Therefore, it is recommended that the board approve the request to advertise the notice to taxpayers of additional appropriations for the 2012 Capital Projects Fund of $1,541,640.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Pat Heine makes the motion.
I'll second.
Jeff Slifer seconds the motion. Are there comments and questions on the appropriations for the Capital Projects Fund? Pat?
I would like for the public to understand the number and why there is no increase in the tax rate, and how that demonstrates the prudence of this board and this financial officer.
In the Capital Projects Fund, we have rarely, last year was an exception, and we asked board approval, that every time there's a cash balance left over at the end of the year, we turn that to cash. That the only way it can be spent is with board approval and additional appropriation. So we do this rarely, but when we do, it's very well defined, but this is on cash reserves that we have available to do these projects that we need to help make Richmond schools better.
And one of the things that people don't remember is that the Capital Projects Fund has less money in it because we passed in Senate Bill 199 the pension relief bond, and that had to be levy neutral. So we have...
Yes, and we will get that from the rainy day. What we have done when we did the pension relief is the law said we cannot have any more unfunded liabilities. With that, we had to buy out our unfunded liabilities of $19 million. We did that in August of 2004. But there was another caveat that the state legislature said is buy them out of that unfunded liability, but don't raise your taxes doing that. Okay. There's only 2 funds to do that in, because you must pay your debt, you must pay your pension bond debt, you must pay your school bus replacement. The only place you can do it is in capital projects. So we do levy neutrality from $1.6 to $1.8 million that we got. We had 1.8 more million. We had $4.8 million in capital projects to maintain our facilities in 2004. We have $3,400,000 to do it this year. Another one of the reasons that the master plan helps us.
Well, and wanted to make sure we connected the dots for people, because that is all related, and there's good foresight there, Mr. Coddington.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On to the rainy day fund.
The following items is submitted for your consideration and approval to advertise to the Richmond School Board of Trustees. Permission to advertise to the taxpayers, again, for additional appropriations, because it has been determined that it is now necessary to appropriate additional monies for the 2012 rainy day fund budget. This additional appropriation, again, will have no effect on the Wayne County tax rate, as we're using cash reserves that are unappropriated at this time. Therefore, it is recommended that the board approves the request to advertise the notice to taxpayers of an additional appropriations for the 2012 rainy day fund budget of $1,900,000.
Do I have a motion? Aaron Stevens makes the motion. Second. Linda Mortison seconds the motion. Are there any comments or questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. On to master planning.
In our master planning session tonight, there will be some action items. And before we get to some of the action items that we've actually talked about, I'd like to have an update from Mr. Mays on the Crestdale project, which is a part of our master planning implementation. And he will discuss with you also a request to gain your approval for advertising for an upcoming bid on the Crestdale windows, I believe. Mr. Mays, turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. We are progressing on our schedule for the design portion of Crestdale School. The drawings are probably almost three-fourths the way completed. And one step that we have to do tonight, we talked about this a couple meetings ago about pre-bidding windows and heating and air conditioning units. And looking at the heating and air conditioning units that we're going to spec, that's readily available, and we do not have to pre-bid those. The windows, we do have to pre-bid those because based upon the schedule of 3 manufacturers we talked to, we wouldn't get the windows until about a week and a half before school started. So this is why we have to pre-bid them. And we would like to have your approval to set a bid date for March the 22nd, 2012, to receive bids for the windows, and then we would come back to you at that March 28th board meeting for acceptance of the bid. Now, the safeguard that we have there is that we would go ahead and put the windows on order, and then we would go through the shop drawing phase and ready for production, but we would not approve the production of the windows until we received all the bids on Crestdale, just to make sure that we're all in agreement to what we're going to do there.
So do we want to have a motion for approval?
We do need a motion for approval, but I'm going to ask Mr. Cross to weigh in on that. Is there any form that motion should take?
Well, I think I had some questions, but no, the motion it would be as recommended to authorize the advertisement for bids to be provided for the provision of materials only. I guess my concern is, you know, I can see a different contractor than putting the windows these are going to be owner-provided windows, basically.
The owner-provided windows, but the installation of the windows will be by the general contractor on his bid when we bid that in April.
Okay, well, I have some concerns that we make sure that the fittings are proper and the tolerances are there, because I can see a general contractor that having a claim for owner-caused consequential damages because, you know, if the
we're fortunate
field measurements aren't
that 90% of the windows are existing openings. Okay. So he will have the openings, and then part of the contract for the general is that he'll guarantee the window size opening when we construct the new windows on the new addition.
Okay, so we're basically bidding for windows to replace windows. Yeah.
Material only.
Well,
Top site drop.
But if I understand this correctly, we're just going through a shop drawing process, so
that's exactly right.
At the end, if our shop drawings need to be modified, we're not
that's
not
right.
liable until we release them for production.
That's right.
Are those all of the questions? Okay, so then I need a motion to approve to advertise for bids for the windows phase.
Absolutely.
Jeff Slifer makes the motion. Aaron Stevens seconds the motion. Comments or questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Kind of exciting.
Isn't he up again?
Okay, on the 7.01 now, there's a recommendation to approve attendance areas. And what I have prepared for the board is just a general statement saying the implementation of the board's master plan is at the point where approval of the boundaries for student areas is critical, and the assignment of students to their respective buildings, the balancing of enrollment, the assignment of teachers, all are dependent on the approval of the boundaries. So I'm recommending, therefore, that the board adopt the attendance areas as presented by Mr. Mays, and he may want to come back up to the podium. He's also prepared, and I think you have at your places, not only a graphic representation of the boundaries, but a description by word.
Streets.
Yeah, by streets.
Narrative. Yeah. Is that on the website?
Don't know that that's on the website yet, but it will be.
I think we're planning on putting that on tomorrow.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and make the motion?
The maps that you have in front of you are a little difficult to read because of the small print. So what I would like to do would be just to describe the boundaries, starting with Crestdale. On the north boundary of the Crestdale addition, which is right here, it would be Webster Road and the Northeastern School District to the east, and then down the east side would be State Line Road to this point, and then we would pick up part of New Paris Pike and the railroad down to the Star District, which would then be 27 down to L Street, and follow the Whitewater Valley up to Progress Drive, and then Progress Drive over to Salisbury Road, and then up this area right here. This whole area then would be Crestdale, which includes this little dip right in this area here. The next would be the Star District, which is actually the smallest geographical district that we have, primarily because of the programs that are going on there, is that we bring students in from all over the district. So on the north of the Star District would be the railroad right along here, Glen Miller Park along the eastern side, National Road East or Main Street would be along the southern portion, and US 27 would be on the western portion. On Vale, on the north side of Vale would be East Main Street, and then 16th down to Wernley Road, and then west on Wernley Road, which then also runs into Test Road to the valley, and then the valley up to L Street back over to 16th, or back over to 27 north, which would be 9th Street, and then up to Main Street. So that would be the Vale School District. One of the largest school districts would be the Charles District, and we would start with the we would start right in this area where the Glen Miller Park. Again, we would follow the railroad and parts of New Paris Pike over to the state line, and then we'd drop directly south to parts of 227, or 122, I mean, and the Union County School District, and we would come over then to the valley right here, and which is would be part of US 27 again, and come right up the valley to where the US 27 and the road drops or starts going north again, and follow the valley all the way up to Wernley Road, and then over to 16th Street, back up to Main Street and Glen Miller Park. So that would be the entire Charles area. On the Westview area, we would start on Peacock Road, and we would go from the Salisbury Road to Peacock Road to Northwest 5th Street, and then we would drop down to National Road West, then go east to the valley, Whitewater Valley, and follow that valley all the way down to the tip right here to where the Centerville School District and Richmond School District meet, and then we would follow that district line up to Salisbury Road and Peacock, and then that would be the entire Westview area. Fairview, we would start on Progress Drive to the Whitewater Valley, follow the Whitewater Valley down to National Road, west, up Fifth Street, across Peacock, and up Salisbury Road, and then this would be the entire Fairview district. That would be the proposed attendance areas for the elementary schools. Now, the proposed attendance areas for Dennis would be all of the Crestdale, Westview, and Fairview district. So in looking at the Dennis test separation would be right along here, right down to the tip, the valley, up to where Crestdale is here, and all of this area then would be for Dennis, and then all this area, which would include Vale, Star, and Charles, would be for the test district.
Before conversation, do you want a motion?
Yes. Could I have a motion to approve the attendance areas as presented?
So moved.
Pat Heine makes the motion.
Second.
Suzanne Daragowski seconds the motion. Now, comments and questions? Pat?
I have a fairly practical question. When we say the district line is 16th Street, for example, does that mean that the west side of 16th goes to Vale and the east side of 16th goes to Charles?
Yes, in fact, in looking at that line, which is right here, ironically, until we get down to Wernley Road right here, there's only 3 families right here on Wernley Road that live on the one side of 16th versus the other side. The rest of them, they're off of 16th Street by a block or two, but we do have students directly on the west side of 16th that would go to Vale.
Is that true? Because I was going to ask the same question. Is that true for all of these streets? That
Yes, yes. Where we use streets,
That
for instance,
go right down
Peacock
the-
Road is one. The road up here, yes. What on the other side, they would go to the other school district.
The only difference would be the valley,
Yes, yes.
and the valley is definitely the river.
And the railroad.
And the railroad.
And we tried to use those lines as much as we could, knowing that there's always a question when you use a street, okay, what side and where do you go?
so you're basically going down the middle of the streets.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly right.
And are there any changes on this from last week?
No, there is not.
Okay.
Other comments and questions?
No, I think the thing that's kind of important to understand, although we'll have, when we get into 5120, we'll talk about some transfer students, our policies. But I think it's important to understand that part of the reason, besides the boundaries, or the national, or the natural boundaries that develop these, is each of the schools are fairly populated evenly for full class size. Now, we understand that 5 years from now, that may change, but that's also in the policy where it could be reevaluated every year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the 2 primary reasons. I mean, some of the lines look a little odd. I'll be the first one to admit that, but the way the population works out in the school.
I think to go along with that, the important item was the new boundaries on the intermediate school, is that for the first time that Test and Dennis are within 20 students of each other of being balanced out.
Other comments and questions?
The other thing that I want public to know is there have been areas, because of other movement that we've made, where in one neighborhood, kids have gone to 3 different elementary schools.
Absolutely,
And
yes.
so we're trying to not only even out the numbers, but even out the neighborhoods so that they are all pretty consistent, which makes a lot of sense.
Yes, that was primarily in Fairview, Crestdale, and Westview, a couple areas, but in some areas, there were almost all the districts, all the 9 districts
See,
at
every
one
one
time
of them
had a
had
lot of
that.
crossovers.
On the other thing, too, is to keep the class sizes where we feel we need to keep them and for what the parents requested. This is another way to achieve that, is to
That's
keep
right.
class size low.
Or equitable.
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 Yeah.
You ready?
Okay. Any other comments and questions? This is a big decision. I don't want to rush it. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we need to thank Mr. Mays and
No
all of the
kidding.
different maps that have been drawn
Yeah,
out
no
of the work.
kidding. That's a lot of work. I do appreciate that. And it's a picture, like this moment. That's that's
is
why
so
the next
true.
conversation is so important. So.
I think the interesting thing, too, that you need to know, that all these maps and data was provided in-house. We didn't have to go out for anybody to put these maps together. The secretaries had all the students, they knew right where they were and pick up, so it's all been produced in-house.
Thank you.
Mr. Mays, I have one request. Now, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I'm going to make it anyway. I love the maps, got them at my house, looked at them nicely. But could I get one special one that instead of having all the streets and everything else, that you would, in bold colors, have all of these different areas and highlight the names of the schools that they will be going to. Just for instance, this area, which we know will be Crestdale, if that could just be one color with Crestdale up there, I need it. So when I'm sitting at home, I want to do some comparisons on my own, and it's easier to do it when I can look at the area and some other things.
Kind of like paint by number.
Paint by number, right. Fill in the dots.
There's some colored highlighters. Huh? Yeah, but I don't want to have to do that.
Thank you.
I may not stay within the lines. Had a problem doing that yesterday.
On to 702.
Okay, 702.
Colored and both runs over.
Policy 5120 and its supporting administrative guidelines was the subject of our meeting last week, the board work session. And I've attached and posted to the web a policy that contains the revisions that reflect a lot of that conversation from last week, as well as subsequent suggestions from board members since then. Due to the number of critical communications from the school and resulting family decisions that have to take place, I'm requesting that the board waive its requirement for multiple formal readings of the version of this policy. So my first recommendation is that you waive your requirement for the multiple formal readings of the revision of Policy 5120.
Do you want to go ahead and do that now?
So moved.
Suzanne Darengowski makes the motion, and Aaron Stevens seconds the motion. Comments or questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Secondly, then, I would recommend the adoption of Policy 5120 as revised and posted to the web.
This is just the policy.
Just the policy.
Okay, so moved.
Pat Heine makes the motion, and Aaron Stevens seconds the motion. Okay, now comments and questions on the approval of Policy 5120, which is enrollment, assignment, and transfers within the
Reassignment.
corporation.
Reassignment.
Reassignment. I just read it as it was printed.
No, I appreciated the time that we was able to spend on it, so.
And the changes that reflected the conversation. I thought we were heard, and I appreciate it. And I think parents should feel that they were heard as well.
Okay, there are no comments and questions. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, we're going to go to frequently asked questions, and one of the reasons for this is because in a parent meeting a few weeks ago, the parents said that they'd been hearing from a lot of other parents misinformation, and they just had some simple questions. So we thought if we could have frequently asked questions be a part of our agenda, that maybe some of those would get answered. And I want to continue to tell the public to please send questions that you may have to the website. We are richmond.com, and we'll try to get those questions answered for you.
And we have some questions that we would like to present tonight that have been kind of a strand. Misty Hollis, actually Bridget Hazelbaker and Misty both work with this, and they're both here tonight. I'm assuming that, Misty, are you prepared to work with this one? Thank you.
We've seen a real theme. It's been interesting from when the master plan process started to how the questions have kind of changed as we've progressed through the process. So the themes that there are specific 4 that we've seen come through the last couple weeks. The first one is, which school building will my student be assigned to for 2012-2013 school year? And our response has been related to waiting on action to be approved for the attendance areas, which you've done tonight. So some of those answers we'll be able to start directing to our parents. And we will post additional things after with the approval tonight on the website with the mapping. Second question is, how will I be informed if my student will be assigned or reassigned to a different building? Our answer is, parents will be mailed a letter of information, and then a follow-up will occur during the parent-teacher conferences week, which is March 19th. So there'll be some follow-up that occurs as well to that. And then the other 2, will my 5th, 6th grader ride the bus with 7th and 8th graders? So now we've kind of moved into the transportation conversations and questions. And our answer on the FAQs is the administration is still reviewing all possible scenarios of transportation. Most likely we will have the 5th to 8th graders on the same transportation route. I spoke to Mr. Coddington today, and the transportation department is looking at 3 different scenarios at this time. And a lot of it depended on the attendance area, so now that that's approved, they can really work toward those transportation routes and scenarios. The last one is, will there be a separate start and end time for 5th and 6th graders as compared to 7th and 8th graders in the intermediate buildings? And our response at this particular time is that all scenarios for start and end time through the entire district are being reviewed at this particular time. So we don't have quite those answers.
I think it's important on that particular question, and I'm glad that one came up. We're looking not just at 5th and 6th graders. We're looking at the start time for the high school, the start time for the intermediate, and the start time for the elementary. There may be some pretty significant changes. And I also, I don't want to throw a huge bomb into this conversation, but but Mrs. Wolpe is also looking at the idea, whether it's this coming year or the next, staggering the start times for the high school for students who would like to come in later and stay later. So we're looking at some changes now at the high school that could really change the complexion of what start and stop times look like. So I appreciate that response, and I appreciate the question.
I want to make sure that we've heard from parents, not just whether the 5th and 6th graders will ride with 7th and 8th graders, but the real concern is safety at the bus stop and on the buses. And we need to let people know we've heard that, correct?
Yes.
And that we are looking at all of those.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And during the time they exit the bus and get into the school also.
One of the questions I had with now that the district maps can be put on the website, I was wondering if we could have a little interactive tool with Google or something where parents can
we're going to
type in
build
their address and boom, it'll take them right to that district.
We're going to build a Google map that's interactive. 3 of them, one for high school, one for intermediate, and one for the elementary.
I think that will eliminate.
So they'll be able to.
Yeah.
Now,
When
before
will
we
that-
get, when will this happen?
Tomorrow?
We will begin working on it tomorrow morning.
But what's a realistic time for us to hold your feet to the fire on
Yeah.
that?
We're thinking by Monday morning.
Oh, okay.
That's
So by our
impressive.
next meeting,
That'll
definitely.
solve a lot of questions.
I agree.
The other question I have and it's kind of a step back, but we have a lot of other policies that we need to discuss, one of which you give us, the 5113.01, but we also have 03 and 05, the homeless, and then the 8600 transportation. Are we expecting to go ahead and go through all of those?
We will have to do that.
Okay, so
I'll bring that. In fact, that'll be on our next agenda.
The one that Ms. Norwalt mentioned too?
Yes.
The whole thing, yeah. Okay.
And what I'll say is, if I can just add, for those that might be listening, there will be this update on the attendance areas. Frequently asked questions will be online tomorrow as well. So we'll have that posted for parents that might have questions.
Good.
So when do you expect the letters to be sent to the homes informing each family of where their school will be?
We have
The
our...
letter doesn't say what school they'll be at. They're being asked to come to the parent-teacher conferences. And the reason for that is because you can't just assume the attendance boundary, because we are trying to grandfather some students into their current buildings. So we want to be able to explain that process.
There will be written confirmation, though, and it'll be right around that parent-teacher conference time, either before or after, once we've confirmed addresses.
And as I was looking back at the FAQs that we put together when we started the master planning process, our timeline that we told parents about letting them know attendance areas was around spring break. So we're moving ahead of what we said originally to parents and to the public.
Well, thank you. Linda, did you have something else?
I just wanted to ask because, so is this a form of the enrollment? When is actual enrollment going to take place?
That is a form of the enrollment. At the parent-teacher conference time, we're asking them to confirm enrollment. And have we talked about actually registering them at that time? I don't recall that.
About the rollover registration, just having them update their information.
Yeah, we are having them update, and we'll also be advertising for new enrollees.
So for those parents who probably cannot attend a parent-teacher conference, how will you get in touch with them through
Well, for one thing, there won't be too many. We have an over 90% attendance rate for that. But yes, we will actually call them, and we'll make sure we have physical contact with all of them.
I think the internet with the interactive map
That'll be so great.
will answer a lot of the questions.
So that's going to take place around parent-teacher conferences.
Right.
Okay, then kindergarten enrollment is
Preschool.
in April or April. I was just thinking that if these because I'm thinking about preschool also. So if those dates are firm and those could be posted so that people are aware.
That's a good.
By the action you've taken tonight, you've caused us to be able to put some of these pieces together. We should be able to communicate that information as early as Friday.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm a little concerned that I don't want parents to think that the Google interaction is really the enrollment or the registration. So while it answers questions about where they might go, that isn't enough to let us know that they want to go to that school. So, correct? I mean,
That's
it's not
correct.
going to be that interactive,
no,
is it?
But we will have registration, a registration site online, will we not?
A link to go to.
Oh, my.
So they may look at a map and have a link to a
Directly to the
registration.
registration,
It'll
but
be-
there may be another step they have to take.
Right. The early registration is planned for maybe that week after spring break, after we've had the parent-teacher conferences, after we get through that spring break, but early right after that we had planned. So, and now that we have these.
You're actually catching us work in motion, work in progress here.
Okay.
That's phenomenal, though. That's great.
We want
have needed
people
to
to
do
think
that
about
for a
it.
while, so it's really
Can you
good.
Registering early.
imagine this pre-computer internet?
The good, I mean, other than ESA, where only the grandfather number of students is between 40 and 50. So what's nice about it is with the boundaries being established and now the policy approved, the address of the residents without those 40 or 50 students that we're talking about grandfather, because they've already been asked to leave their home district to go to another district because their building is full, will be fairly accurate. With the exception of ESA, because that's 98 or 96 of our students that are guaranteed enrollment in ESA. So.
Oh, fun.
It's great. Good conversation. Thank you. On to our press conference. Brian, did you want to ask any questions?
Want to do the consent items? Or did we do that already?
No. The
All
press
right.
conference
Well,
is
I'm
before.
past the press conference.
Ready for the consent?
Now we're ready for the consent items.
All right. For consent items tonight, we have the approval of our February 6th and February 8th, February 15th minutes. Also, recommendation from Human Resources, and we have no addendum tonight. Accounts payable. Also, a recommendation to approve a request for corporation-sponsored travel. This would be our Business Professionals of America. I believe it's the competition in Chicago. And a recommendation to approve corporation-sponsored travel, spring overnight athletic opportunities.
Do I hear a motion to accept the
So moved.
accept the consent items as presented? Aaron Stevens makes a motion, and Dixie Robinson seconds the motion. Comments or questions on the consent items? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have our second public commentary now. Is there anyone signed up? No. Is there anyone out there who would like to speak? Okay. Follow up on old business.
I'd like to alert the board, this is continuation of old business. We have submitted some sections of policy to Neola to have that updated. And within the next few weeks, there will be a significant amount of work to go through the board policies in some of these sections. These are sections that have also had updates with administrative guidelines. It's substantial work, and I just wanted to let you know that it's coming.
What are the sections?
Sections, Pam, Section 8.
That was very important because the timeline didn't have a lot of wiggle room. So I appreciate everybody being willing to do those extra meetings. I know they're kind of hard to do when you think, oh, that's the off Wednesday or whatever. So
It just makes it a lot easier tonight when we're trying to have a discussion and make a decision.
And there were more of the public who were able to be involved with it, not necessarily here, but also by watching it or hearing it, reading it online or other opportunities that they may normally not have had, which has led to other questions from the public and answers coming from us and coming from Dr. Dorff as well.
Well, I guess that was a reflection, which is the next.
And a celebration, maybe.
All of the above. Is there any more follow-up on old business that anyone wanted to talk about? Okay, then we'll go to superintendent and board reports, reflections, and celebrations.
Kathy Parker has something.
I do. I have a couple things. The first thing I'd like to talk about is, you remember last year when we talked about the new Indiana K-6 reading framework, the Indiana Department of Education is working on developing a 7 through 12 literacy framework. And they have put out an offer for schools to be a part of that pilot. And if you're a part of that pilot opportunity, then you will be getting some really good professional development. And Richmond High School, Test Middle School, and Dennis Middle School, as they now stand, all applied to be a part of that. We were notified that Richmond High School has been accepted as a part of that pilot. We still don't know about our middle schools, but they will begin at the end of February participating in some online professional development, and they'll be putting together a literacy team. The focus at the secondary level, obviously, is to spread literacy throughout all the content areas, and so that will be the focus of those groups. So congratulations to Richmond High School for that. The second thing that I would like to highlight is with the passing of the waiver and our waiver from NCLB, some of the focus of the personnel at the Indiana Department of Education has changed. Richard Benberry, who had been a turnaround specialist, is now working to create and house what he's calling best practices in education examples from across the state of Indiana. And he was looking through the data for schools across the state of Indiana and wanted to spotlight great processes that are going on in schools. And he has identified C.R. Richardson as a turnaround school because of their really good growth and high ranking in the PL 221 because they received the letter grade of an A, and they also have sustained growth across several years. And so he's scheduling a visit. He'll be coming and spending about 3 to 4 hours talking with the leadership team at the school, talking with students, talking with parents, and doing some walkthroughs. So it's really good. We'll be a part of the best practices in Indiana.
How many schools? Do you know how many schools?
I don't know how many schools they've identified initially, but I think we're probably one of them in the first group.
That's great.
I think I saw where our bowling team placed 7th in the state.
Yeah.
Girls bowling team.
Okay,
Congratulations to them.
I have one. We received notice, and we'll receive a lot of notices in the next few months about our seniors receiving awards, scholarships, and other honors. One of the first, Aisha Bowen, who is a senior, and many of us have heard her sing the national anthem at Veterans Day and a few other songs. She also happened to be a member of the All-America City team of a couple of years ago. But she was selected as a Koch Scholarship finalist that's worth $10,000. There were 48,000 applicants, and she was one of 250 selected to be a finalist. They will receive the $10,000, and they each are then going on an expense-paid trip to Atlanta for interviews, and out of those 250, one per state will be selected to receive another $20,000. So
holy cow.
Aisha Bowen
Great.
this year has been the student head of the Kickoff Mentoring Program, and she's been very active in a lot of things. So congratulations
So
to
much
Aisha.
talent.
I know.
All the way around.
I know. I could just hear her sing all the time.
Dixie.
Congratulations to the Star Academy taking the Science Title Award. They placed first in the state champion for Class 2 competition in the 2012 Elementary Science Bowl. Charles finished 9th, Garrison finished 12th, and Highland and CR finished 18th and 19th.
Great news. But to win, isn't that exciting?
I'd like to highlight some work at the high school. We have Oklahoma coming up this weekend. Oklahoma, the musical, will be Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, Saturday evening, Sunday matinee. And, you know, we went through a dry spell on drama and musicals at Richmond High School, and it's wonderful to see that that's coming back. I also want you to know that our speech team coach has put out an all-call for some additional judges for, I think it's this Saturday. But the real news is that we have a speech team. That also was kind of a dry spell
Call
for a
Mary
while.
Jo, she's been after that, right?
So we have a speech team, we have a drama program, musicals, and I can't let this pass. We also had a victory over Kokomo High School at the ball game, and
What did you win?
well, not only did we win the game,
Yes.
but the team gave me the game ball. In 20 years being a superintendent, that's the first time that's ever happened, so I appreciate that gesture from the team, but what they didn't know was they presented that to me right in front of one of my high school best friends. And he's going to have to live with that memory the rest of his life. And we
Maybe it
talked
was in
about
some of the
that.
pictures you can
Yeah.
send me.
And that was a great game.
It was a fantastic game. They did a really, really good job that night. And so did, I don't know how many kids participated on the floor during halftime, but
That flash mob?
mob.
the flash mob. But for that was
was
all for
fun.
Lemonade Day to promote that. So we had a busy game that night.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Oh, wait a minute. Mr. Cross has
I'd like
something.
to celebrate a graduate of Richmond High School. If you would, last week, Michelle Mancher, who is working as a beat reporter for the Chicago Tribune, had a special feature article in the Tribune that dealt with the fact that she and her now deceased father share Valentine's Day as a birthday. If you
It's a nice
want
article.
to read an uplifting article, I commend that to you. And I'm
That
probably
was
violated the
great
copyright law
article.
by downloading it. Congratulations.
Well, I saw it on Facebook, so it's out there. Okay, thank you.
That was